Hello, and welcome back to the Becoming podcast. I'm your host, Allie Gray, and this is episode 2, Becoming Comfortable Taking Up Space. Um, gonna start off really blunt here. I almost didn't record this episode. I've been thinking a lot about what taking up space even means, and I did a lot of research, and I had this whole outline, and I was really, set. I have actually recorded it 3 times now, and for some reason, the way that I was explaining it and the way that I was trying to wrap my head around it just wasn't working. And then today and this morning, I actually had a breakthrough, more or less. It was actually a crash out, but I'm going to call it a breakthrough. And sometimes it feels confident to take up space, and a lot of times it feels uncomfortable. And I just want to start off by saying asking for help and asking for support and calling your mom when things get hard and figuring things out and taking up that space to emotionally let yourself feel things and emotionally let things out and even just express whatever you might be feeling and whatever emotion that might be can be really uncomfortable. It can feel like guilty. It can make you feel a lot of different ways. And for me this morning, my biggest one is that I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be a burden on anybody else's life because I had a lot of problems going on in my own life. And for that reason, it helped me reshape how we think about taking up space. And the tone I really want to set with this episode is that it's not about being the loudest person in the room, but it's about not shrinking. Now, when we talk about shrinking and what it actually looks like, it can look like a lot of different ways and a lot of different things. We can talk about subtle ways in which we shrink, so saying sorry too much, or making ourselves smaller in group settings, or not sharing ideas, or laughing off compliments, and making ourselves feel low maintenance, even to your family, or to your friends, or to your partner, or whoever it might be in your life. If you are just trying to come off as low maintenance and trying not to be that burden and just trying to make everybody else's life around you easier by minimizing yourself, that is actually a very huge way in which we shrink almost every day. I think at the beginning of the week when I was trying to record this and outline this, I was thinking about my trauma and my past and all the different things I've been through and how I've minimized myself through it. And yes, that's very prevalent for my trauma as growing up as a child of abuse in the way that I stayed quiet for so long and didn't share my story until I was 14. But as I kind of went on and experiencing just the really rough week that this week has been, I realized that it's also very, very evident in my day-to-day life that I, as a person, continue to minimize myself, and that a lot of people around me do as well. And so I think one of the biggest takeaways now that I'm recording this when I am is that a lot of times I do have something to say. I do have some sort of, hey, I need help. A lot of times asking for help and needing support is actually truly what I do need in that moment. It is what I would love to ask for, and I do have those words to say it. I just didn't want to be too much. I just didn't want to be a burden. And it's really, really hard for me to kind of get past that. And I think it is for a lot of people. And so I'm hoping that this kind of personal tie-in and this episode can hopefully help you guys just feel a little bit seen. It's not a how to stop minimizing yourself. It's just becoming more comfortable taking up space, becoming more comfortable letting ourselves express those emotions, letting ourselves um, be bigger, I guess. I'm not quite sure what the opposite of minimize is, maximize ourselves, but that doesn't sound too right. Anyways, we're just going to redefine taking up space as well. So, obviously, in the last week, I've been a full-time student. I've been working on my business. I've been working on a lot of fun things with Corner House and also my podcast, and also maintaining numerous amazing friendships and trying to secure a job, and then also trying to get straight A's and understand my physics homework and all this other stuff. But it all is kind of adding up. And so this morning I totally just crashed and I burnt out, and I've been burnt out these last few weeks, I think, with school and the weather and seasonal depression and my anxiety and all of the above. And I think that at the end of the day, when I've experienced some of those crashes and burns this week, I think probably only 2 out of the 7 days of this week, I've actually allowed myself to feel those emotions. And obviously, I live with an amazing roommate who knows how to support me and knows my limits and knows my social cues and all that. But there's a guilt that I have felt, and I think is very common to feel when you have strong emotions and when you're going through stuff, is you don't want to burden others with the emotions that you're feeling. You don't want to burden others with the hardships that you're going through and your life, and you don't want to burden their day and put all of this on them and trauma dump and whatever. They truly support me and help me, but I'm not the kind of person who's going to sit here and want to trauma dump on you and ruin your day, because in my head I process it as my emotions and my tellings, and my even trauma dump sometimes can be a burden on other people's lives, and that's never what I intend to do. I don't think it's really anything that any of us ever intend to do. But what I want to circle back to is that is all in our heads. There's never once that I have felt like other people have burdened me with their emotions. And this is obviously from my lens in my life, but if you're ever feeling this way and you've felt these emotions similar of this guilt and this burdening, put yourself through your friend's shoes, right? Like if you were hearing any sort of thing that your friends have told you in the past about how you're feeling mentally, how you're doing, just what kind of support and help you need, you're not going to be like, well, that just ruined my day. That just ruined my energy for the day. No, if you're truly a good friend, they will listen, they will support. And thankfully, I do have a huge support system around me that has caught me when I've fallen this week and picked me back up morning after morning and kept me going on literally the hardest days of my life. And I think wrapping this all into kind of my brand and my story and becoming overall, I felt a lot of this growing up, especially when I was 14 years old, trying to think about communicating my story and what happened to me as a child and the abuse that I went through as a kid. I didn't want to burden my parents with that. I didn't want to burden my family with the potential of no longer seeing their grandparents. I didn't want to think about what could me speaking out and speaking up about my story do to our family dynamic. And so this guilt, this overpowering guilt that I continued to feel was consuming me. And I continued to not want to tell anybody. And I kept it all in. And I decided that I would just deal with it, that I would just live in silence as I'd been doing and continue to just push it down. And I think you can only do that for so long. It's so unhealthy to do. Yet we continue to do it every day. We minimize ourselves for other people's comfortability. And this can also look like not wanting to be too much. We have strong emotions as humans, and I specifically feel like I have a very strong sense of expressing my emotions. And so I sometimes seem like I can come off as too much. My emotions, when I'm sad, when I'm angry, when I'm upset, it can come off as too much. And that's true. Like, I think to some people, yes, that can be true. But I think the important thing to realize is that your support system, the people that you surround yourself with, they are the ones that don't want you to hide. They are not going to see you as too much. They're going to want to help you. And again, it comes back to, if you're hearing this and you're like, well, no, like, they wouldn't, think about it. If you were them, if somebody was in your place feeling exactly what you were feeling, and they came to you expressing exactly what you want to express to them, how would you react? And so trust that you have a good enough support system that would do the same for you. Because I think that's really the most important part of this is you are not too much. There's a difference between humility and hiding. And it's truly such a strong thing to even be able to recognize and point out and think about. To the right people, you won't have to hide your emotions. And truly, truly, I cannot exercise this enough. Find your circle, find your people, find your support, and lean on them a little bit. Humans are not supposed to have a perfect life story. Nobody has a perfect life story. I promise you, every single person you talk to can name at least 10 people that they've had to lean on in their life through some sort of situation in order to get through it. And I think that's the beauty of being human, is that we all have people like that. We all have to lean on each other in order to survive and make it out in this world. And that can go for a lot of things in life and a lot of different topics of life, but I think that is kind of one of the overarching themes that I've noticed. Now, we're going to shift a little bit here and redefine taking up space. Taking up space is saying what you think, sitting up straight, not apologizing for existing, allowing yourself to grow, letting yourself be seen. And the list goes on. And so I urge you guys to pull out a piece of paper, journal in your journal tonight, write it down. What are some ways that you can take up space? Redefine taking up space so that your brain cognitively can unravel and rethink about what taking up space means. I don't think that taking up space should be a negative connotation. I think that allowing yourself to grow, letting yourself be seen, asking for help, leaning on your support systems is something so unique and very powerful. It's very powerful to even realize that I don't have it all figured out. I might want to. We might think we really do, but in reality, none of us do. And so that's where we have to learn to take up that space, ask for that help, say what you think. Do not apologize for existing. Allow yourself to grow and let yourself be seen. It's not arrogance, it's not ego, it's not dominance. It's just presence. It's you being human being and you becoming who you're meant to be while taking up space. Now, we're going to go a little bit deeper. There's a lot of fear behind doing that. And a lot of the reasons we don't take up space can be fear of being judged, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of outgrowing people, fear of disappointing people, fear of guilt. And that's what I want this episode to kind of reflect for you is there's a lot of fear. It's not an easy thing. None of this is easy. Becoming a person, becoming a human being that you are adamant about being is not easy. Growth isn't easy. It's not linear. And when we minimize ourselves, there is research that shows that our brain decides that certain emotions or experiences are too big or too scary or too uncomfortable to deal with head on. So we shrink and we downsize them. We minimize them. And in response, it minimizes our self-esteem and it allows our emotions to kind of numb and dull. Because a lot of our energy, our mental capacity is taken up with these experiences and these emotions that we are feeling too heavily, that us in our heads are too scared or too uncomfortable with to deal with. And there's a lot of psychology behind minimizing ourselves and how our brain cognitively minimizes it. But that was kind of the little bit that I thought was really cool. So if there's anything to take away with you this week or a question to journal about later, I'm going to leave you guys with these things. Think about where you are shrinking that you don't need to anymore. Write it down, journal about it, pray about it if that's your thing. Think about it, reflect, talk to somebody about it. Reflect upon where you are shrinking that you don't need to anymore and why. Next, what would taking up 5% more space look like this week? Not 50, not 75, not 100, just 5%. What does taking up 5% more space look like for you this week? Next, wear something bold. Wear something that's been sitting in the back of your closet for weeks that you don't know what to do with. Style something new. Wear a new bracelet from Bracelets for Bravery. Wear a new piece of jewelry. Wear those big chunky earrings that you've been thinking about wearing. Wear the shoes that don't match with the outfit just because you like them. Wear something bold. Present yourself strongly. Be confident. Take up that space. You don't have to take up all the space. You just have to stop giving up yours. I'm going to end with this last line. Becoming isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming brave enough to be who you already are. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good week. I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.